Hey guys, welcome to another episode of H2O. I'm one of your hosts, Mitch Estrada, and my co-host, Mr.
Mario. How are you,
What's going
buddy?
on, Mario? Good. How's the family doing? Well, I hope.
Yeah, no, everything well. A little scary this week with my daughter having somewhat emergency surgery. So thanks so much for all my customer friends and reaching out and helping out. So
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I'm glad she's doing well. My daughter, she's at the doctor now, trying to figure out to see if she's got strep or COVID, which is kind of crazy because it seems like this COVID thing keeps popping up over and over and over again. Which brings us to today's topic, really, at the end of the
Yeah.
day. What is COVID doing today, especially over in China, like in Shanghai? What's going on? What are you hearing from your counterparts over in Asia?
Well, I hear from my guys on the ground in China that obviously a lot of stuff is shut down. People don't really get to go outside or any of that stuff. But when it comes to logistics, that most of the logistics are still flowing. We have seen that freight rates have dropped a lot out of China over the last few weeks. Which makes me think that many of the factories are probably shut down. Because of that, we have less demand. Because of less demand, we have less freight rates, or less higher freight rates, I should say. Um, I saw a couple of freight rates last week in the high sevens, which I haven't seen in a long time. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because on Fritos, which is actually kind of crazy. They just discussed it today that Asian to the U.S. West Coast prices fell about 2% this week and have dipped 5% since the outbreaks in March to 15,000. Also, rates have fallen into Northern Europe 14%. So there you
Yeah.
go, down to about $11,000 as inflation continues to damper European demand. So yes, rates are definitely going down. I think that a lot of steamship lines are starting to also be a little bit more careful with a lot of the situations that's going on with these companies and the government going after some of these steamship lines, requesting and asking them where they're getting their rates from and how they're coming
Wow.
up with them. So I think
Absolutely. And think about it, Mitch, man. 11% drop on an $11,000 rate. That's sizable.
it's
If the
tremendous.
rate back in the day when the rates were $1,500, 11%, we would be laughing over this right now. But we're talking several $1,000s. And if the factories in China continue to be shut down, I think they're going to continue to tumble.
Yep.
So I think the what the carriers want is China to get back on their feet quickly so the demand stays high so they can keep the freight rates where they are.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do that. I know that a lot of these companies in China, these manufacturing companies, are trying to really work closely with their truckers over there because it's like a complete lockdown with the trucks also.
Yeah.
So they're trying to really work and hopefully it doesn't cause too much of an issue. As you could probably have seen on LinkedIn and all over some of the social media for all the logistics professionals, the port of Shanghai is completely, filled with vessels just sitting there.
Yeah, did you see those
Inundated.
pictures this morning
Oh,
from the ship tracker where you see all those little ships sitting there? I mean,
incredible.
LA looks like a joke against to that. There was thousands of ships sitting there. It's crazy.
Yep. But now here's the thing. It sounds crazy, but even though, and you saw the same picture, the one that was side by each other. Now,
Hmm.
wait, just so you know, those vessels have to go somewhere. And I'm
Right.
telling you, I have a feeling that a lot of them are going to be going into that area. So you're going to be seeing a big shift of those vessels coming here. And now, is that going to cause more of a problem for us? What do you think, Mario?
Yeah, I think it's not going to affect us so much on the inbound side. I think it's going to affect us more on the transit time and delay side, right? So,
Absolutely.
because what's happened is many of the ships that are going to stuck there, eventually they have to make a call to go to a different port first, right? Most of the
Yep.
Chinese routings, go to Shanghai, Ningbo, Yantian, Qingdao, let's say, right?
Right.
And if they get stuck in Shanghai, they might just skip Shanghai altogether, and especially MSC was always very big at that, where they're saying, "Hey, if there's a problem in the port, I'm just going to skip the port,"
Sure.
and I think that's what you're going to see on a few equations where people are just going to skip it.
Well, they're making announcements now that a lot of these the bigger carriers will be omitting the port for a while. It is going to obviously cause some major issues. But here's the one thing is with all of these situations going on in the ocean freight, what's kind of interesting is a lot of that stuff's moving air freight. So now you're seeing an increase in air freight going up tremendously.
Yeah.
Just straight out of China this morning, I mean, rates are up about 40% with air freight coming out of China. 40%.
Yeah. What number did they say some numbers?
Yeah, they said that China to North Europe rates have increased 40% since the start of the lockdowns to $8.69 a kilo.
Yeah, I was going to say I got rates this morning at 7.75 a kilo, and I mean normally it's anywhere from 350 to 450. So I knew already. Okay, there's something happening, and we're a little bit in trouble here.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. What's kind of interesting is also just to kind of give you an idea, Asia to US is now paying about 13 to 15,000. Asia to the US East Coast are actually paying about 17 to 19,000. And believe it or not, North Europe to the United States East Coast has dropped down to $8,200.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, I mean, still an increase over last year. You're still at about 110 increase globally. Just going into the West Coast from Asia, you're still up 162% year over year. And Asia to the United States East Coast, you're still up 176% from last year. It's the rates seem to go up and up and up. And, even though they're starting to come down, I think we're starting to find somewhat also of a new norm. I think the 2,000 to 3,500 for imports are gone. I think, like you said, we're going to be going, the new norm might be between 7, 8 to 11. We don't know. We don't know.
Well, and I think they're going to continue to spike in between, right?
Sure.
I think the current China rates are really not a number I would calculate with going forward. I mean, we've seen this with Chinese New Year when freight rates are dropped by 10 to 20%. And I think you're going to have the same thing now, right? Freight rates are going to drop, but the product still needs to be shipped. So even if these factories are shut down, I think people got to realize that it doesn't mean the stuff will never ship. It just creates a backlog, which then puts even more constraint on the supply chain. So many people think, oh my gosh, this is great. Freight rates are finally coming down. I think this is going to be very short term, and I think they're going to spike right back up.
I agree. And if you've actually noticed, even though with inflation being here, you start shopping on Amazon and you start shopping on Alibaba and some of these e-commerce websites, they're out of stock.
Yeah.
They're completely out of stock. Electronics, forget it. Drones, out of the question. So it's and I'm seeing these third-party people selling the units. For example, like a PlayStation 5 that you buy for about $599, they're selling for $1,200 on Amazon. I mean, this is going to be crazy. And like we've mentioned, supply chain is so important. So what are you doing to prepare, Mario, or what are you speaking to your clients about when they're talking about importing it from China?
Yeah. So one of the biggest thing that we've told our customers on the import side is that you really need to have ready available stock in the United States to ship to the clients. So rather than doing a just-in-time delivery, which majority of my customers did in the beginning, where basically container arrives and you go straight to the customer's customer, if that makes sense, right?
Yep.
So what we are doing is we're offering warehouse space. We're occupying about 280,000 square foot right now for about 7 or 8 different of our clients, and they have product. They have it sit here. Whenever we get space, just ship it in here, and they have rolling inventory, which unfortunately doesn't really help on the inflation side, right? Because there's now an additional cost in the supply chain of storing the goods and unloading the goods. But to be honest, that's the only way to do it, Mitch. The supply chain globally is too unreliable right now to do just-in-time delivery. So I'm telling all my clients, get on our warehouse program and store the product if possible.
That's really smart. I mean, people need to be prepared. Also, people need to also be prepared of being taken advantage in these sort of market conditions. So make sure that if you're shipping or if you're working with people out of China, contact people that know the China market. Contact people that have worked in those markets before or worked with those markets. That's really important. I know that export forwarding is huge with China, and they get a lot of great opportunities and great support. So do your due diligence when choosing a provider. I mean, that to me is very important. What do you think, Mario?
No, absolutely. And on top of that, yeah, your local freight forwarder can certainly help. And another thing that I can also recommend is, especially for my other freight forwarding friends out there, join a couple of associations, like freight forwarders associations, because it gives you huge access to different freight forwarders. So if you can't get enough space, what we always tell our guys or other freight forwarders, hey, we can't be your only solution. We are dealing ourselves. We are dealing with over 100 different agents in China alone, right? So if we need to
Yeah.
ship 100 containers, it could be as easy as getting one container from each agent.
Yep.
So
Well, I know everyone's getting prepared, and I'm sure a lot of people that are in the industry already know about this. Obviously, our videos are to help people that are in the industry or trying to figure out what's going on in our industry. So that's somewhat of a bit of an update out of China. Now, what's great about next week, which we will be discussing, is talking about how the big boy forwarders, some of these big, large forwarders, are looking at the world of acquisitions. We're going to go back and revisit these topics because we seem to see that more and more forwarders are coming to the table for acquisitions. So that'll be an exciting one to talk about. What do you think, Mario?
no, I can't wait to talk about it, and it blows my mind seeing the acquisitions currently happening.
It
It,
is.
it's
It
it's really
is.
happening all over the place. So I'm excited to talk
It'll
about it next week.
it'll definitely be exciting. Well, Mario, I hope you take care. Send my best to the family. Hopefully, a quick, speedy recovery for your daughter, and I hope everything goes well. And we'll talk next week.
All right, buddy. Sounds good. Talk to you
Take
next
care.
week.
Be well. Bye bye.